The St. Gregory Elementary School auditorium hummed with excitement. Parents filled the rows, phones in hand, ready to capture the evening's spring showcase. The stage curtain trembled slightly with the movement behind its children, whispering, giggling, adjusting paper crowns and fairy wings. I sat in the third row, a bouquet of fresh roses on my lap, dressed in a dark blue windbreaker I hadn't worn in years. My heart thudded unevenly, not because of nerves for the show, but because of a sinking feeling I couldn't shake. Something was off. My eyes scanned the crowd. Front row center Elaine, my mother-in-law, perched like a statue. Her lips were pulled into the kind of smile she wore only at weddings and funerals. Not joy, not grief, just calculation. My brother Caleb sat stiffly beside her, not even glancing my way. When I'd waved earlier, he'd barely nodded before looking away. It had been a strange few weeks. My daughter had become quiet, distant. My wife, Maureen, was always busy. Meetings, yoga retreats, self-care weekends. Yet here she was tonight. According to Ivy, she said her mom promised she wouldn't miss the recital. The house lights dimmed. "Ladies and gentlemen," came the principal's voice over the speakers. "Before our young stars take the stage, we have a very special presentation." I frowned. A ripple of confusion passed through the room as the red velvet curtains slowly parted. But instead of children in colorful costumes, a line of adults in identical red polo shirts marched onto the stage. Matching smiles, matching slogans, printed boldly across their chests. Fresh starts, new lives, clean slates. The crowd shifted uneasily, whispers grew louder. I recognized the logo on their shirts, a local real estate and life transition firm that had recently gone viral on social media for their over-the-top divorce celebration packages. Then I saw her. Morin. She stepped forward, heels clicking against the wooden stage, holding a sleek black microphone. The crowd fell silent. Even the children waiting in the wings stopped giggling. Her voice rang clear through the speakers. "Ben Coulter," she said, "you've been served." A collective gasp rolled through the auditorium like a wave. Phones lowered, mouths opened. Even the buzzing drone camera paused mid-air, as if stunned into silence. Maureen stood tall, her red lips curled in satisfaction. "At exactly 9 a.m. this morning," she continued, "I filed for divorce. I no longer require your presence in my life or an Ivy's." From behind the stage curtain, I caught a glimpse of Ivy's small face peeking out. Her glittered eyelids blinked rapidly. The paper flower crown she wore tilted to one side. Her lower lip trembled. I didn't move. Not yet. The red-shirted squad behind Morin clapped, like cheerleaders after a touchdown. A few confused chuckles rippled through the crowd. Some parents looked around, unsure if this was still part of the show. Others just stared, horrified. Phones slowly raised again, not to film their children, but me. I stood up. Moran's expression shifted just slightly. She expected me to leave, to run out to give her the ending she'd rehearsed. Instead, I reached down, picked up the bouquet of roses, and stepped into the aisle. Slow, steady steps. I clapped once, then again, slow. Sarcastic applause filled the stunned silence. "Brilliant," I said, loud enough for the mic on my chest to catch every word. "Really, Morin? 5 stars. Strong opening act." Morin froze. I unzipped my windbreaker. Pinned to my shirt was a small wireless microphone, its red recording light blinking steadily. A thin wire snaked down into my pocket, connected to a compact recorder. A murmur ran through the audience. Some parents shifted forward in their seats. "Thank you for confirming everything publicly," I continued, still clapping, "especially with witnesses like my brother Caleb and dear Elaine here. You've just made my legal team's job incredibly easy." Morin's confident mask cracked just a flicker, but I saw it. Her real estate squad glanced at each other. Uncertain now, the man on the drone remote lowered his controller slowly, his brows furrowing. "And one more thing," I added, looking directly at Ivy, who was now gripping the curtain with both hands. Her eyes locked on mine. "This isn't your fault, kiddo." Silence filled the auditorium, thick and brittle. Morin stood still, eyes locked on me, but the confidence had drained from her face. She hadn't planned for this part of the story. Not the microphone, not the countermove, and definitely not the moment where the crowd began to shift its loyalty not to Erbit to the man standing calmly in the aisle, bouquet still in hand. I turned toward the audience, lifting the tiny recorder in my palm. Every call, every plan, every meeting, with your little rebranding culture. You see, while you were hiring drone guys and staging performances like it's some reality show pilot, I was just paying attention. A few parents murmured. Someone in the back snorted one of those involuntary, shocked laughs you can't suppress when theater suddenly becomes real life. Morin tried to speak. "This isn't," I raised a hand. "You've already had your turn on the mic." Her jaw clenched, but now, the red-shirted Fresh Start team was inching backward, clearly realizing they'd been dragged into a mess way above their paycheck. That's when Ivy stepped out from behind the curtain. She walked slow, quiet steps, still in costume, her silver shoes catching the stage lights. Her face was pale, eyes red from tears she hadn't even wiped. The flower crown hung crooked on her head. She didn't go to her mother. She walked straight down the steps of the stage and into the aisle toward me. My heart cracked right there. I knelt. She didn't say anything at first, just wrapped her arms tightly around my neck. The bouquet got crushed between us, petals dropping to the carpet. I didn't know she was gonna do this, Ivy whispered. She said it was a surprise. I know, I said, hugging her tighter. None of this is your fault. The audience watched. No one moved. Then someone clapped. A single person, near the back dot, then another dot, and suddenly, the entire auditorium was clapping, not for drama, not for spectacle, but for a father who stayed calm under fire, for a little girl who deserved better. And maybe, for the realization that this night, meant for joy, had been hijacked and someone finally took it back. I stood, Ivy's hand in mine. I faced the stage again. I'm done with games, I said. You want a divorce? Fine, but this won't be your circus. And I squeezed Ivy's hand, will never be your prop again. I turned to the principal, who stood frozen, near the curtains. If the kids are ready, I think we could all use the actual show now. She nodded slowly. Yes, of course. We returned to our seats, well, sort of. I sat on the edge of the stage stairs, Ivy in my lap, bouquet wilted. Between us, the lights dimmed again. This time, when the music began, it was the right kind of spotlight. Children danced, parents laughed again. And though the evening would never be forgotten, it wasn't for the scandal or the drama. It was because, in the middle of chaos, one child still performed her part. And one parent showed up when it mattered most. 3 months later, family court, downtown district building, courtroom 3B. The overhead fan hummed with a tired rhythm, mixing with the shuffle of papers and the distant echo of doors opening and closing. It wasn't dramatic like TV. No banging, gavels, no gasps. Just cold chairs, tired faces, and the dry tension of people settling scores in legal ink. Moran sat at the far table, immaculately dressed in navy, her lawyer whispering something she didn't seem to hear. Her face was different, now tighter, sharper, like she was trying to hold herself together with bone instead of skin. I sat at the other end with my attorney, a calm woman named Kira, who barely blinked, even when the opposing side tried to rattle her with performance nonsense. Between us, a judge flipped pages in a thick file. In that file, the transcript of the school auditorium incident, recordings of voice messages, emails, financial logs, the footage of the red-shirted Fresh Starts squad clapping while Ivy cried off stage. There were no witnesses today, no drones, just paper and truth. The judge finally looked up. Ms. Coulter, she said, this isn't a courtroom for theatrics. This is family court. We deal in what's best for the child. And frankly, what happened on that stage was not about Ivy. It was about you. Moran's mouth twitched. It was symbolic. No, the judge said bluntly. It was reckless. My fingers tensed in my lap. That judge continued, flipping another page. Mr. Coulter has submitted evidence of consistent involvement, stable employment, therapy sessions attended with Ivy, and no history of conflict. The court sees no reason to limit or interfere with his rights. Silence. Moran looked stunned. For the first time, unsure of her next move, her lawyer didn't speak either. The judge leaned forward. Joint custody is granted. Ivy's emotional well-being requires the presence of both parents, mature, responsible ones. Any future public displays or attempts to weaponize shared time will reflect very poorly in future proceedings. Then she paused. Also, the court finds the real estate stunt a potential violation of personal dignity and will be noted in case files as an aggravating factor should custody terms be breached. With that, the gavel finally came down softly, a dull thunk. But to me, it sounded like the closing of a door I'd been holding open too long. Later that evening, Ivy's room, light rain tapped against the window. She sat cross-legged on the rug, sketching with a purple marker. I watched her for a moment before speaking. So, I said, guess who gets to go to your piano recital next month? She looked up, eyes shining. You, I nodded, both of us. But I'll be the one in the third row again, with no drama this time. She grinned, and maybe a new bouquet. Absolutely. She went back to drawing. You know, Mama says she didn't mean to hurt me. She just wanted to be free. I sat beside her. Some people think being free means walking away from others, but sometimes it means showing up and staying when it's hard. She didn't answer, just kept coloring. But I saw the corner of her mouth tilt upward, soft, small, but real. Outside, thunder rolled in the distance, fading like applause in an empty room. It had been almost a year since the night everything broke open under stage lights. The curtains, the red polos, the mic drop divorce, all of it felt like some surreal nightmare now. But time had done what it always does, moved forward, slowly, relentlessly, without asking permission. And so had we. The calendar on the fridge was marked with stars. Not for court dates, not for lawyer meetings, just normal things. Ivy's science fair, Dad's weekend, dentist at 3 Life. Slowly stitched back together. On a quiet Saturday morning, Ivy sat in the kitchen with a half-built model volcano in front of her. Flour, vinegar, baking, sodecos waiting to happen. She squinted at the tiny instruction sheet. "Dad, why does the volcano need to explode? Can it just exist?" I looked up from my coffee, because sometimes things have to explode before they become something worth studying. She thought about that. Like us. Exactly like us. She smiled and poured the vinegar. Foam erupted from the volcano's mouth, bubbling over the edges, spilling harmlessly onto the tray. Ivy clapped. "That was awesome." I nodded. "Messy, but awesome." The local park had changed. The local park had changed. The new trees had been planted. The swings had fresh chains. There was a mural on the far wall painted by the community of all colors reaching toward a sun. Ivy ran ahead, skipping from one stone tile to the next. We reached the old amphitheater near the hill and open-air stage surrounded by trees. Empty, quiet. I hadn't been here since her school performance that never happened. She stood on the stage. "Do you remember?" I nodded from the grass. "I do." She hesitated, then spread her arms wide and said, "Ladies and gentlemen, presenting the girl who didn't let chaos ruin her spotlight." I clapped loud, proud. No sarcasm this time. She bowed, then sat cross-legged in the center. "Dad, yeah, you were scared that night, right?" I walked up the steps and sat beside her, terrified. "But you didn't run." "No, I wanted to, but I saw you." She looked down at her hands. "Sometimes I still get scared she'd do something like that again." I put an arm around her. "She might, but now we both know you're stronger than surprises." She leaned her head against my shoulder. The sun dipped lower through the trees, golden light scattering across the stage like nature's own spotlight. "No more hiding behind curtains," she whispered. "Never again," I said. We sat there for a while, no rush, no script, no performance, just a father and his daughter, together, present, and finally, free.